Yeah.
I guess.
Okay. I don't know. I didn't fill out the invitation, so I don't know what we're talking about. All right. So you did ask if we could have a Elul appropriate class, looking back at what we learned with the perspective of what are we doing? You know, the work, the Avodah. Who's Galaxy A10E?
It's Esther Barak.
Esther. All right, Esther. Nice that you joined. So that's a very appropriate thing to do in Elul. Elul in general there's really like two energies of it. On one hand, it's all about the king is in the field and he's smiling at us and we're just warmed by the glow and we feel Hashem's compassion. Compassion means we don't deserve it, but he's there for us anyway. Kindness is we deserve it and he's being very kind. Compassion is we don't deserve it and he's giving. So we like compassion. And that's the energy of this month. The Yud Gimel Midos Harachamim, the 13 attributes of mercy are shining so intently that we're told the whole month should be a holiday. But that's the whole point. The king is in the field. It's not. So that's one big component. At the same time, there's a lot of work we're supposed to do. Like God's smiling and we don't deserve a thing. And he's giving us all of our requests. And I personally saw some nice miracles happening this month. I really felt God's warm smile. But at the same time, there's a lot of work because, hey, we want to get into the palace. So when we get into the palace is by connecting to the king and by working. And that's why, of course, the famous verse that spells out Elul, Anila Dodi Dodi Li, really talks about the work. It's talking about work. It's a beautiful verse. It talks about work, the work of prayer. And there's another verse that talks about the work of good deeds. And there's another verse that talks about the work of Torah. And there's another verse that talks about the work of repentance. And there's another verse that talks about the work of redemption. So we got 5 coordinates of work, working in Torah, working in prayer, working in our actions, working in our repentance, working in redemption. And the king's in the field and he's smiling very beautifully and showering us with lots and lots of bounty. And both are happening. And all of this is for one reason, because Rosh Hashanah is coming, and then it's Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur, and the 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, and Rosh Hashanah Rabbah, and Simchas Torah, and like we can't just roll into that with the dirt, the clogs of dirt, the mud clinging to us. So we got 29 days to transcend that, and for that we both need the king to smile and lift us out. And we need ourselves to do work. So it's actually interesting. I once learned a sikha that was very powerful to me, where the Rebbe said, you know, explaining this whole concept, this interesting concept, we talk about tricking the Satan. You know, we speak about how we don't bench the Chodesh, the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah to trick the Satan. We don't blow shofar the day before Rosh Hashanah to trick the Satan. And it's like, I says, he doesn't have a Jewish calendar. You know, everyone else got a few free Jewish calendars and he wasn't on anyone's mailing list. How does he not know when it's Rosh Hashanah? And every year. So the Rebbe explains that the trick, well, I mean, there's many levels in explanation. There's the concept of that we're so confident that we don't even need to blow shofar before Rosh Hashanah. We don't even need to bench the new month. We don't even need to mention Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah. We don't even need all those merits, which makes him really unnerved. Like, you're that confident? Oh no. You mean like you're going to win? Oh no. You're not even trying to push hard? No. Additionally, the Rebbe explains that if a person really works in Elul, they get judged in Elul. And that really tricks the Satan, because he thinks we're going to court on Rosh Hashanah. So he brings all his files, his cabinets of files and files on every single one of us, every last bad thing we've done for the whole year plus. He slugs them all to court on Rosh Hashanah. But we fooled him, because we got judged before. We got judged in Elul. How do we get judged in Elul? We get judged in Elul if we're ready to be judged. If our Torah study, if our prayer, if our acts, if our repentance, if our redemption, if all of that's on board, what should I wait for Rosh Hashanah for? God says, let me judge you now. And it's like, I envision it like in America, if you go to court and the cop doesn't show up, automatic win. People think that never happened. Actually, once happened to my son, a crazy Rebbe miracle story. Cop didn't show up, automatic win. Does make a difference that he was completely guilty, which he was. So when we go to court in Elul, the cop's not showing up because he thinks the court date's Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, it's an automatic win. How do we go to court in Elul? By working hard now to ready to be ready so we can get judged early. So that's sort of the background to why we're having this class now, which is to really try in this area that we spent many weeks discussing, really looking at it practically and saying, new, the king's in the field. How do I look? New, I want to rev up my act. It's Elul. How do I look? I want to get judged already now. I don't want that adversary to be in the courtroom with me. How do I look? So who would like to start talking about what they've been doing based on all the wonderful godliness that we learned together a few months ago? I'll focus you a little more since I didn't have like a chorus of voices. I think one piece that we came away with very strongly was the idea of nullification. And that was a very key part of really doing the work that the Rebbe Rashab is demanding. And the more we nullify ourselves, the more everything else works. And when we don't nullify ourselves, it doesn't, meaning we're very stuck in self. And we're stuck in self, we can't escape it. And we just look at everyone else and see wrong and see intimidating and feel defensive and uneasy. And so to focus more specifically, who has any war stories to share or has really not forgotten to work on nullification in relationships?
Well, I'll just ask a question, because now that we're talking about it, lots of times I'll say, oh, is that my ego, who's really talking? And I'm not even sure what the other part is. I guess your godly soul as opposed to your ego. Or am I doing it? Okay, is it my ego? Like if I respond back or if I try to get defensive or something, I don't remember. How do we know if it's really your ego? Someone's, I don't know, even the grocery store person, they criticize you, or yell at you or something like that. How do you,
they're really late and you're really annoyed. And like, is that my ego that I'm so annoyed, but they're taking everyone else? Why am I waiting in line so long and they're ignoring me? I think anything that evil feeds evil and godly feeds godly. So if I'm in a negative space and I allow that energy, what's going to come from that is more negativity. If I, again, somebody was rude to me in the store and I was upset, I wasn't rude back, but I was upset, what happened next? That's how you know what it was. It's always, always, always the test in life. And then what happened?
well,
Because if what
well, what
happened
comes first, the chicken or the egg?
I'm fuming, I have negative feelings, whatever. So that wasn't a good space. It wasn't from a godly space, but it was from a godly space. It wouldn't lead to something negative.
I guess the question is, are any negative feelings not from a godly space?
Are you saying
someone
can any
criticizes
negative
you?
feelings be from a godly space?
Yes.
It depends what you mean by a negative feeling. Meaning, if you see wrong,
Right, moral decision, moral things.
and you get upset, maybe that's a godly thing. Maybe that's called being a kanoi. A kanoi is a zealot, like Pinchas. Pinchas saw wrong right? He saw what Cosby and Zimri were doing, and he was upset, and he responded, and he was very, very, very intently responding. That was a very godly, not everyone's style, but a very godly act. It's a certain personality, but he was using it for godliness. I remember in Chicago, there was a person, you might call a bit of a meshugana, but the local mikvah was being used for not kosher conversions, and he got really upset. And he made a huge fuss about it, and he put up such a fuss that they stopped.
Wow.
So that's amazing. That was an amazing thing. You need to be meshugana to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, he got really upset, but it was a very godly upset, as we see, because he pushed and pushed and pushed, and they stopped. And then he was done. Like, that was it. He wasn't, okay, well, now I'm on my bandwagon. I'm gonna be so. No, like, he accomplished something. So
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I guess what I'm thinking is when someone, let's say someone yells at you, or someone's, I don't know what, insults you. So you're saying evil breeds evil. You're not starting off in an evil spot. You're not starting off in an angry spot. But let's say your response is defensive or angry. So then that's not good. Is that always coming from the ego? I guess that's responding and not, that's reacting and not responding.
I don't know if I would blame. I mean, it depends how you respond. But if someone yells at you when you get hurt, it might be coming because you're human. So I think we can give ourselves a pass for being human. Again, if you then yelled back, if you then went and told 5 of your friends how rude they are, but if someone yells at you and you get hurt, I mean, some of us do and some of us don't. Like I say, it depends on how thick our skin is, who the person was, what were the rude things they said. But I think we have to sometimes give ourselves a little space for being human. Which again, doesn't mean that then I can talk bad about them to the whole world, at least 3 people. It doesn't mean that then I can yell back or say rude things, but just the essence fact that I got hurt, I don't think you should bash yourself for that. Some people.
So that's not necessarily the ego.
Not necessarily. It could just be sensitivity. I'm sensitive, and this person was very hurtful, so I got hurt.
So then what is a better indication that it is your ego responding?
How you respond. In other words, if the person offends you and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, how are they talking like that to me? How are they treating me like that? Who do they think they are? Well, that's my ego, because who do I think I am?
It could be who do they think they are, but if it's really rude the way they're talking, that's not necessarily proper either. Is it?
It's not. But the fact that they're being inappropriate, we know they're being inappropriate. I'm not their mother and I'm not their mashpia, so it's irrelevant to me. Their issues, right? I'm not taking responsibility for their issues. If someone screams at you and you get hurt, that doesn't mean ego. If someone screams at you and you scream back, that's the ego. That's the evil. But if you got hurt, I guess you're human and your feelings got hurt. We can't. So
someone hurts you
for feeling hurt, right? If someone hurts you and you feel hurt, I'm not blaming you, and we're going to bash you for being so human that you got hurt. But if someone hurts you and then you open up your mouth and really give it to them, that's a problem. We say, there's a saying that's quoted in the Tanya, which means when you fight with someone who's dirty, you get dirty. If you fight with someone who's dirty, the dirt clings to both of you.
Whoa. What chapter is that?
So when you...
No, that's an interesting thought. That it really is. It's like, that's pretty...
It's pretty powerful. And that's poignant. Why it's really in chapter 12. It's not the only place where it is, but that's coming to my head right now. So what that's teaching us is, going back to Elka's example, that someone was rude to you or screamed at you or said something nasty to you or did something nasty and you got hurt, you're human. But if you start engaging them and fighting back, their dirt's going to cling to you. When you engage with someone who's dirty, you get dirty. And therefore, the best recourse is to step out of that situation, step out of that engagement. Like, you're not a saint yet. Okay, you're not a saint yet. So maybe, but like physically or emotionally, walk away. Put around your protective barriers. Don't hear it. Excuse me, don't absorb it. Just separate, because I don't want to fight back, and I just want to sit passively and get hurt. So what do?
Right.
So I separate myself physically or emotionally, mentally. And that's what
Okay.
we need to do in that situation. Anyone else been working on Bittul, nullification, putting self aside? It's fine to say no, it's Elul. What you really want to say is, I'm going to start now. I
That's good too.
remember, but I forgot. You know? So you've gotta look at yourself and say, okay, it's Elul, and there's a reason we're here. And what do I do in a practical way? Because I don't want to keep forgetting. And we spent quite a number of weeks discussing this, which would seem well, let me take a step away before I say this. Who during the time when we were learning on some level was working on their nullification or on their relationships with other people? Beryl's saying yes.
While we were learning, I
While
would
we
say
were learning
yes.
it.
Yes.
Okay, only me and Elka? Anyone
well,
else? You could raise your
Now
virtual
ask if I
hand
did it when we
hand.
stopped learning. Now ask if I
That's gonna be my
continued.
next question.
I was trying. I don't know how well I did, but I was
Okay,
trying.
fine.
I'm trying now too, but it's like the task is huge.
Our egos are huge, so the task is huge.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
So
it's really.
It seems like everyone, I didn't hear from, I think, 2 people, but from all the ones I heard from, myself included, we were working when we were learning, because how could you not
Right.
work when you learn
I've
something
learned a
as
lot, but it's
impactful as
still-
this?
And I was looking forward to each class, so it was on my mind, to.
Right.
Toby, what were you saying?
No, it's just I'm in a very tough situation, and I'm with the person who's causing the problems practically all the time right now. So some days I do better than others. That's all. But I'm trying to not get emotionally involved and get into, like you said, let their dirt get on me. And most of it, he can't control it anyway. So it's just
If you're in a
very
very
tough.
tough situation,
My husband was really sick. I didn't even know how sick he was. He didn't even remember being in the emergency room. He was in that bad shape. And now I had pneumonia and he's still coughing and he wakes me up at night, but what am I going to do? I mean, I like having him around. Better than in the hospital, but he wakes me up at night with his coughing. So I pretend that I don't hear it. That's my Bittul,
if you're in a tough situation, it just means you're really tough. Your soul is
I
really
guess.
powerful, because God only gives us what we can handle.
I'm sure,
And
but
I mean, honestly, I think most of us are like rock stars. Meaning we have been here so many times. Our souls are so huge. We all were here by the Tower of Babel. We all were here by Egypt. We all were here by the time of Rashbi. And I'm sure we all have many personal times we were here as well. And then, like Toby's saying, she's really challenged. I feel God is just like twisting those screws, because Mashiach has to come, and he knows
That's right.
when, because we're really tough, because we're really strong. And he's like, okay, produce. I know how strong you are, so produce. So I'm going to keep tightening it till you're forced to step up to the plate and produce. So I totally believe that you're going through enormous challenge.
But sometimes don't we ask, when is this not enough? Like, God, how many more times are you going to tighten that ratchet? Like, what do you want from me?
Maybe
I need a day off, please.
maybe it's when you've overcome and when you've done what you needed to do. In other words, it's like God sometimes is like, well, I'm going to get you here. Oh, I didn't? I'll do this. Oh, I didn't? I'm going to get you. I know what I'm doing. And at a certain point, you're just going to give in to me. And until then, these things keep flying.
I guess sometimes I feel like I don't know what the giving in is or what that real avoda is. I
What
keep
I
getting
think-
the, like I was saying, like to somebody, if you ever play tennis, there's the ball machine. The balls just keep coming at you, and they can turn the speed up faster. So you're like hit. So, or like those, like if somebody were, God forbid, push you like under the water, and you're like trying to come up, they keep pushing you back. It's just like it's just coming at you and coming at you. And you wonder how come I'm not doing the right thing yet? Sometimes I feel like I don't know what the right thing is.
So I think in those situations, we have to go to our most fundamental services. The three that are coming to my mind, one, what we were just discussing, which is the idea of nullification. Nullification, not only meaning interpersonally, but like Toby's example is nullification to God. It's just like, this is you. I submit. Another overarching service is trust. This is you, and I know you're here, and I know it's going to be good. It looks horrible, but I know it's going to be good because it's you and you're only good, and I trust you, and it's going to work out, and I trust you, and I trust you, and I trust you, and I trust you. I believe that all of us, one way or another, are challenged by trust. To me, now this is just my feeling, is because it's a very Mashiach work. Meaning, what does trust mean? Trust means I see through whatever's happening to its core energy, which is God. And that's Mashiach. When Mashiach comes, I'm going to look at this and see the godliness in it. And I'm going to look at this and see the godliness in it. And I'm going to look at this and see the godliness in it. So when I'm trusting, I'm looking at this messed up situation, and I'm trusting because I know it's all God. I'm seeing the godliness in it. And I'm looking at this thing flying at me, and I'm like, no, I trust. It's you, and it's all going to be good. So trusting is putting yourself in a very Mashiach space because you look past and through everything to its core, which is what's going to happen naturally by Mashiach. So I think most people, if you really unwrap their individual challenges, we all have our own individual window dressing, but a core component of everyone's is trust. And a third element, which I've been thinking about a lot lately based on a class I give in Tanya, what I've been teaching the women now is, this is how I phrase it, I don't serve idols. What that means is everything in this world is God, and there's nothing but God. He is all, and all is Him. So when I'm scared of something, intimidated by something, upset over something, I'm in essence giving a power to something besides Him. I mean, I trust Him. But if this creepy guy on my block, or my new neighbor, or my boss, if I'm feeling scared, intimidated by them, I'm giving them a power. There's no power but God. It's all Him, and there's nothing but Him. So when that happens in our life, and of course it happens a lot of times in our life, the phrase I use is, at least I don't serve idols. If I'm giving credence to anything, if I'm giving a power over me, I'm serving idols, and I really don't do that. I really know that all there is God, and it's all God, and there's nothing but God.
I heard that class actually too.
Oh, you heard it? Oh, very
Yeah.
good.
There's
I wanted to know when's the real time that you give it? I was curious.
8:30 Tuesday nights, Chicago time, 9:30 Baltimore time, Tuesday nights.
Oh, that's why. Maybe except I feel like I'm going to ask a question. Go, what are some questions? I'm like, oh, it's recorded.
So Rabbi Yossi Paltiel has he sends out these little clips every Wednesday on Inside Hasidus, and he talks about where do things come from? Where do these issues that come and overwhelm us, and the anger that comes from another person, or if someone puts you down, is it from the person, or is it from God, that God is using that person as a shaliach to put you in a certain place, for whatever reasons there are? And he talks about where does this come from? Is it because you can get angry at another person, but you don't really get angry at God in the same way, because you have, like you said, you trust God, you have faith in God. So if it comes from God, somehow you can kind of turn your mind to say, okay, I accept it. This is from the Abishter. He knows what's best for me. I must need this for some reason. But if something comes from another person, then you're, like you were saying, Elka, your own ego gets involved because you get angry at that person because they, caused a certain thing to happen to you. And when you were talking about that, it just really resonated, because if we can somehow understand that everything comes from the Abishter, even these people who are obstacles in our life, that they're also being directed by the Abishter to interact with us in a way that we can learn, or we can be challenged, or whatever it is. So then maybe it's easier for us to handle than to think it's really coming from that person who has it in for you.
Right,
Not
they're
only
just
is
the
it easier
messenger.
to handle, it's also true.
Right.
Don't kill the
truly-
messenger.
It's truly, truly, truly him. And everything bad that happens to us that we're interpreting as bad, everything unpleasant that we're interpreting as unpleasant, he has a reason. And we sometimes just, again, I trust you. I don't understand, but I trust. And we
So maybe
accept that trust.
I know we did learn at one of the classes, but to know the difference when something is said to you, directed towards you, whatever, in a not the way, like you said, the messenger is sending this really negative message, seems like. So how do you determine, maybe I'll answer it anyway, or you will, whether that's really an indication of something where you have to move in your avodas Hashem, or is that the time to say, this has nothing to do with me, just sort and separate from that?
Well,
Barrage.
nothing, you can never say this has nothing to do with me. What you could say is what the person's saying is completely not true. And God just wants me to get a little patch. And that was my patch for whatever. I will or won't know why. Or you could say, oh, they're coming to tell me something. I should really listen to what they're saying. Sometimes when I'm in that situation, I ask try to find 3 honest friends. Is this true? This like let's say someone criticizes you and you're really you're clueless. You don't think you're like that at all. But maybe God is using this person as a tool to give you a message, or maybe God is using this person just to give you a random patch, so to speak. You're supposed to get the patch, but the message is irrelevant. The message has nothing to do with you. It's just a vehicle for the patch. So
that hurt is like a patch?
That's what I mean by the patch. The hurt that this person was lambasting you and criticizing you. Okay, I was supposed to go through that pain. I got the pain. Or maybe the criticism's true, which means I'm supposed to go through the pain, but I'm supposed to change and absorb what they're saying and work on myself. That's in essence your question, as I understood it. So I think that's when you speak to a mashpia that knows you well, or friends that will be honest, and say, someone said such and such to me. Is there truth to it? Do you think I need to work on that? And see what feedback you get. And maybe the answer will be, well, actually, if you're really asking, if you really want to know, or what, not at all. But sometimes you have to ask a few friends. Not only is it that friends aren't always honest, but even within honesty, different people have a different perspective on you. And that's what I remember. I did this once with 3 friends. I don't even remember what the criticism was, but I remember the friend's response. I don't know if I remember all the friends were. I remember one friend was, not at all. And the next friend was, no, but I understand why someone might think that about you. And the third friend was, yeah.
Now what do you do?
It was interesting to me, because I was thinking, okay, this person, each one meant it very sincerely, but they're different, and as such, they view me differently. That's why it's good to get sometimes a little sampling of, is this just for my kapara, or am I really supposed to hear what the person's saying? Sometimes we get messages from unlikely places, but we're supposed to get the message. And that's why we wonder and try to understand the hashgacha pratis. Am I supposed to take what even though this person is saying because they're in a bad mood, and maybe they're mentally unwell, and they're upset with me, but that doesn't mean I'm supposed to ignore what they're saying. Maybe I'm supposed to pay attention, and maybe I'm supposed to ignore it. And that's sometimes, again, either must be a figure or 2 or 3 good friends to really get a feel ignore. No, there is content here that on some level, maybe it's exaggerated, but on some level, you do need to work on. But when we're looking here, going back to this idea of this overarching work, nullification to God, trusting God, not serving idols, which means knowing it's all Him and there's nothing actually but Him. All of these works are hard, but all of these works really, really feed us. They really liberate us from our own smallness. They really feed us. They really help us move. Something else that helps us move, with a technique that I use sometimes, is just identifying Yetzer Hara. Like, oh, there's my evil inclination again, you know? There's my evil inclination, ready to get me, ready to, you know what, you think I'm gonna fall for you again? Like, I'm sorry, I know I keep falling for you, but you think I'm that pathetic? Like almost talking to it as like this like outside party, when you're in a situation where it's so clear to you, like if you're really upset at your husband, you know, whatever he did, and you're so upset and you're sulking and you're fuming and you're like, you know, I'm being a little bit of a baby here, you know, is this me, or is this me under the clutches of my Yetzer Hara, my evil inclination, that's allowing me to have a really long pity party? So sometimes you have to like just look at yourself and say, Yetzer Hara, please just go bother me a different day.
Erev Shabbos.
Today. Yeah, for
Erev
sure.
Shabbos.
Just
And that's when they come. That's what's even worse, when it comes to Erev Shabbos.
Absolutely, but it doesn't leave us any other day of the week either. Just, I know it's you and it's pathetic that I still fall for you, but like, I want to stop being so pathetic. Like sometimes that helps, like really identifying to yourself, really labeling, really saying, this is my Yetzer Hara. And that really like frames it as like, so do I want to fall for it? I know I'm all mad at this person for my Yetzer Hara. Do I want to give my Yetzer Hara such power over me? A little self-respect, you know? So get out of here. Like go on vacation, go to Florida, enjoy the weather. Just give me some space.
Take a hike.
Okay, I thought of how I was working on this meetup of.
You did. It's a little hard for me to hear you.
Okay, I was just thinking of how I am working on this media of Vittel. I mean, we've been talking about it for some time, but it just occurred to me how I can like verbalize it. And I realized that the way I want to verbalize it is that when I see people, instead of being negative or minimizing their greatness, I'm seeing them in a much more expansive way. So I think that's.
What are you doing
that's
to
definitely
achieve that?
progress for me.
Mhm.
What are you doing to achieve
What am
that?
I doing to achieve? I don't know what it is, but I guess have a different view. I just have a different view because of Vittel. I don't know, but I just know that, you know, I'm seeing like a much more complimentary of people, either in my mind or just it's more expressive about people. Like in terms of not just saying they're good, I'll be much more. I use superlatives a lot more when it comes to certain people, So I see that as being, you know, instead of me being, I tend to be competitive with people. One up, one down, one down, one up. Now it's a little bit more even keeled, and also, like I said, using more, you know, they're the best or they're the greatest, that I, you know, just more positive. That's what
amazing.
I want to.
And it could just be, like we said before, good leads to good as bad leads to bad. So maybe just
Right.
from your focal point of Bittel, of nullification, it led to something that worked, so you continue doing it. Now, you did saying this idea of in her own mind, like thinking, oh, they're the best, they're the greatest. So I want to focus on that a little bit, because because we often fall on our face in that issue, which means it's so easy for us to speak and think negative instead of speaking and thinking positive, especially about like our kids, our spouse, the other people in our life. And what we really have to understand is everything we think and everything we say has an energy. So when Judith is looking at someone saying, whoa, she's amazing, she's actually energizing her amazingness. And if Judith would have looked at a person pre-learning Hachaltzu and said, oh, she's so self-centered, she would be energizing her self-centeredness.
Mm.
When you're looking at your children and you're like, oh my gosh, this kid's driving me crazy. She's such she's so annoying. She's such a crybaby. She complains over everything. You know, she's so scatterbrained. As we think or say these lines, we're really energizing the negative. And if we can turn this around consciously, I don't know if you did, it was not clear for me, it's just you automatically started going that direction and you just kept going with it because it felt nice, or it was a conscious decision. But if you consciously decide and say, at least on the level of speech, I only want to, at least about my children, talk positively. Make it really narrow, only speech, I can think whatever I want, but on my speech and all about my children, I'm gonna speak positive. And once you do that for a few days, it's really powerful. It's very empowering. You might say, I'm going to also bring my spouse in, my mother-in-law in, my father-in-law in, my parents in, my siblings in, my neighbors into this club of, at least in my speech, only positive. And then you might want to take it deeper and think of your thoughts as well. Because in our speech and in our thoughts, just what we say really, really, really impacts the person we're saying it about. So it's an amazing expression, really, of bittul to be, I think another component what Judith was saying is being non-judgmental. Because once I'm the judge with the gavel, you know, this one, I negate, this one, that one, this one, that one. It's very easy to negate. And it's hard to like say only positive words.
Don't you have to have the thoughts first before you can actually speak? Thought, speech, action? Like, don't you have to have those positive thoughts in your head before you can talk?
But for us, for most of us, the more external it is, the easier it is to control. So in my brain, I have all these negative thoughts going on. But in my lips, I'm not saying those words. And then when you get good at that, you could go to the next level and change your thoughts as well. Sorry, someone just sent me a chat, which disappeared.
I guess that was the reverse. That's what I was trying to ask. Can you actually say the positive when you're really thinking negative? And you're saying yes.
Yes.
Because don't open your mouth if you're gonna, it's not gonna come out positive. Don't open it at all.
Right, exactly. So that also, in essence, comes from this place of bittul. Because when there's bittul, you're much more embracive. And that was a big part of what the mimer was trying to teach us. That when we're in a space of bittul, we're much more generous with other people. We're much more tolerant. We're much more accepting. We're much more embracive of others. And when I'm in that embracive, inclusive space, I can look at everyone and have a really good eye and really, really see their shining lights. Or at least not allow myself to see their negative. Or at least if I see their negative, not allow myself to talk about it.
Well, I have a question. So what if you see something that really, really, you know, is wrong? I mean, not terribly wrong, but you know, say with a child or something like that. And, you know, obviously, if you say something to them about it, they're going to be upset, even though it may be very true and it's something that upsets you. So, okay, so this is, I have this challenge. And so I've been trying to be very positive in my speech and everything else towards them. But I know it's bothering me, the thing that's going on that is not, it's a matter of sneeze, let's put it that way. What do I do? I just keep quiet and hope that somehow it's going to correct itself, or?
So what you have to ask yourself is, do I have the ability to influence this person to change?
Yeah.
It sounds like the answer is no, because if you had, you would do it. So if you do, I'm just sketching out the whole thing. Yeah. I assume Rachel does not, because otherwise she obviously would have stepped up to the plate and done something. But when somebody's doing something, so again, what Rachel is saying is, you see someone doing something wrong, big wrong, little wrong, wrong. And I'm talking about think positive, at least only speak positive, but they're doing something clearly wrong.
Right, right.
What do you do? So if you're seeing this because you have the ability to influence them, go for it. If you're seeing this because you can't influence them, but you know someone who does have a relationship with them and who can influence them, tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes what you can do is say tell them for them.
Mm-hmm.
Give
Yeah.
tzedakah for them.
Right.
But sometimes very, very helpful for another person that you care about, but you really cannot directly try to influence, is take on a mitzvah ideally in the direction of what they need. Like, I mean, just a little simple example. I was speaking to a woman, her son's not from at all, married to a Goya or whatever. And she so desperately wishes, he would make any move close. Like, wow, imagine who pronto. I said to her, so maybe you should sponsor tefillin for other people that aren't going to put on tefillin. And they're putting on tefillin could be a merit for him to put on tefillin. Like, she can't directly talk to him about it. There's no ability to have that type of conversation. But she can and did sponsor like 5 pairs of tefillin. So there's a lot of other people putting on tefillin in her son's merit. And that will help him come back. So I'm just giving this example because it just, it's very recent and fresh in my brain. But I've seen this with many, many people with many, 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 many situations in life. So when you can talk to the person, talk to them. You saw it this reason, you saw it. If you love them, if they know you love them, they feel your love, they trust you, talk to them. If they don't, you don't love them, or they don't accept that you love them, you're not so close to them, you're not on their wavelength, but you know someone who is, tell that person. If neither of the two are, or in addition to either of the two, take on something for them. Again, there's global things like tzedakah that's always good to take on. Tehillim is always good to take on. But Tzemach Tzedek said, if we knew the power of Tehillim, we'd be saying it all day long. And then an extra mitzvah is good. And ideally, if you can create a mitzvah that's mida keneged mida, that's amazing. But even if you can't come up with a mitzvah that's mida keneged mida, just an extra mitzvah where you say to God, this one's not for me. Don't give me any credit. The credit goes in that person's bank account. I'm doing it for them.
Okay.
Put it in their bank account.
Yeah.
It's very powerful, and I've seen a lot of amazing things come from that.
Right. That's a good idea. Thanks.
So someone else, as we're talking about bittul, which we sort of, it seems the majority of us, we were very focused on it when we learned, and maybe we got a little distracted since. Or maybe we're trying, but it's very difficult. And sometimes when things are difficult and we're Americans, we give up. And we should also understand our ego. There's a beautiful metaphor that the Alter Rebbe concludes Kutei Marim with. This is a metaphor he brought us earlier, but now he's looking at it from a different angle. We speak about the flame of God on the body of man. This is a candle, right? Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. Every one of us is like God's candle. So we have the candle, we have the wick, we have the flame. The flame is God's energy. And there's the wick that's holding that flame. The wick is my body, my animal soul. As the wick holds the flame, little by little, the wick is charred, little by little. And the Alter Rebbe ends the tiny with this thought. As the flame of God is on the body of man, bit by bit, your impurities are charred away. So it's a big job to move to a space of bittul. And I'm really glad we're having this talk, because I'm excited to think I'm going to be remembering it again. Because it was very exciting when I was doing it, and I was very focused, and I loved it. It was great. But life got in the way, other avodas got in the way, distractions got in the way, whatever our excuses are. But we should also understand that whatever we accomplished, we accomplished. Bit by bit, the evil is charred away. Doesn't mean we've arrived, but it means we're in a different place than we were before. And sometimes it's really good to remember that and to take strength from that. To really like, hey, I'm not anywhere near the word perfect, but I'm better today than I used to be.
Wait, how is that bittul being charred away? The evil, how's the evil being
is
charred away?
charred away as the energy of the Shekhinah, as the presence of God is on your body. Every time you do a mitzvah, every time you learn Torah, you're nullified to the divine presence, to the Shekhinah, to the will of God, to the Ratzon Elyon. And that's like a fire that's on you. And that fire chars away little by little your impurities. You know, like there's a saying you perhaps or probably have heard. It's a cute saying from the Rebbe Maharash. The Rebbe Maharash said, there's 3 things that we know they impact. And if they didn't impact, you don't have enough. Money makes you crazy. If you're not crazy, you just don't have enough. Mashka makes you drunk. You're not drunk, you didn't have enough. And Chassidus makes you godly. You're not godly, you didn't have enough. And what that's saying, there's such a deep point the Rebbe Maharash is bringing out in this, that Chassidus makes you godly. The immersion of the human flesh, mind, and heart in Chassidus changes me. Well, I don't feel that I'm so godly. Take some more. Absorb more. As you absorb, it's going to change you in I don't know, I can't remember. In Kuntres Hamayim, towards the beginning of Kuntres Hamayim, actually, the Rebbe Rashab speaks about learning Torah in general as this ultimate thing man can do, and then specifically learning Chassidus. And the Rebbe says, the Rebbe gives many details of why it's so important to learn Chassidus, but his bottom line, like his Sachakol, the sum total of his analysis is, Chassidus makes you edel. Chassidus makes you refined. As the Rebbe Maharash said, his father, Chassidus makes you godly. So when we're learning and studying and being invested in Hachaltzu, it's no wonder it was easier for us to work on bittul. I mean, come on, we had a lot of Chassidus pumping through our system. But that Chassidus is still inside of us. It's still impacting us. We can still draw on it. We can still do the work. And at the same time, if you find it hard to stay focused, like the more you learn Chassidus, the more God is real and the less real is the world. And when you stop, maybe that reality of God recedes a bit and the world quickly fills in that gap. So the more real the world is, the more difficult it is to have bittul. And the more real God is and the less real the world is, the more natural it is to have bittul. So as we're working on this very counterintuitive thing called bittul, it helps to keep imbibing the Hasidic thought. Maybe the classes we learned, maybe you can post them and you could just on your own time, just listen to them as you're doing something else, background, and like absorb, take it in, remind yourself, because it's tremendous energy in that godly power of a mimer. Now, this is a mimer. And we were learning from a copy that I was personally given the Rebbe by hand, so I probably had even more power. But this is a mimer, a Hasidic discourse. A Hasidic discourse is not like the Rebbe talking. It's like a new light is penetrating this world. And that's why when a Rebbe says a mimer, if you've ever been by a Farbrengen, watched a video of a Farbrengen, you see the Rebbe's in a different reality. Because it's like this godly energy is flowing through him. So when I drink in this godly energy, hey, it changes me. You know, it's interesting. The Rebbe says that the first opening thoughts of God's inner will and wisdom were really given to the world by Hanukkah. That was the miracle of the oil. The oil is the inner dimension of Torah. But then we just took oil in little drops. The Rebbe says, now we drink it straight. You know, we just gulp it down. All of us, you know, we're such honestly simple, honestly not so smart, honestly coarse people, and we're drinking draughts and draughts of Chassidus. Like we know what all these much greater than us and more refined than us people didn't know. We know it all. And does that help us? Absolutely. Because with all that godliness inside, we have so much power to change. So it's the end of the line, and therefore things are tough. For each one of us, as per my life trajectory, that's how it's going to be tough. But I also have a very, very powerful soul. Many times I have a huge soul. We all have huge, huge souls. We're such big people. Like, again, as of course we all know this, we are the generation that left Egypt. Oh, we know that. You've heard that countless times. Think what that means. That was a long time ago. That was 3,333 years ago. Well, I've been here many times since. So I'm a lot bigger than I was then. I'm a lot more powerful because every additional lifetime exercise flexed my muscles, made me bigger and bigger and bigger for a challenge far greater than getting the Jews out of Egypt is getting the Jews out of this exile. And we have the power to do it. God does not demand what we can't do. So Toby going through her horrors, and Rachel going through hers, and me going through mine, every one of us, and everyone is. And I don't know anyone who's exempt. Everyone has different ones, but everyone's really working hard. And in a sense, we're working on the exact same thing. We're working on not serving idols. We're working on being nullified. We're working on trust. And we're just crossing that finish line. So like sometimes if you can envision it that way, you can keep marching. I was speaking to my mother-in-law today and whatever, there's a lot of stuff going on in my personal little world right now. It's like, oh my gosh, she's so exhausted. And I'm like, okay, like I tell myself Shabbos is coming. I mean, it's Wednesday, it's almost Shabbos, right? I'm gonna sleep really soon. So like, I know Shabbos is coming, so I can hold on for the rest of Wednesday and for the Thursday and for the Friday, because Shabbos is coming any second. So that's what's happening right now. It's hard. It's tough. We're crossing that line. But Shabbos is coming really, really, really soon. And when you hold on to that, you keep trucking.
Is that okay to like go to live like that? I almost feel like I'm avoiding some of the avoided during the week because I'm saying, oh, just get me to Shabbos, just get me to Shabbos.
No, I'm using it as a metaphor for Mashiach. But no, it's not avoiding the avodah. It's giving me my lifeline. Shabbos is coming. A mere 6 days away. Mashiach is coming. Hold on. Keep walking. We're getting there. We're making it happen. We're the most powerful women that ever existed. And we're doing it. We're doing it. You know, it says in the Gemara, they're discussing the coming of Mashiach, and one of the Tanaim there said, I don't want to be around. It sounds like a horrible thing to say. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. But maybe what he meant is it's going to be really difficult. But we want to be around. We want to, and as the Rebbe says, it's our merit to be the generation that's making it happen. That was the first mimer the Rebbe ever told us, the first message, right? Ready or not, wanted or not, interested or not, you are the most chosen people of all times because you're the ones bringing Mashiach. Isn't it interesting? Hashem had all of his whole repository of souls and he selected us, you know, to come down and make it happen.
I really feel like that metaphor that was said also forever, the birth pangs of Mashiach, right? Like I see so much more the connection of childbirth and getting to Mashiach, you know, like that, the last, those contractions and the transition but if you've given birth, you know what that relief is afterwards.
Someone said to me something very recently about this. She was literally talking about a birth, but it was like right away connected to Mashiach. My brain is so fuzzy. I don't remember if this was it, but I think what she was saying was even after, she's talking about childbirth, but even after the baby's born, your body is still like contracting, like, you know, pushing out whatever, the afterbirth, whatever. Right. The baby's born. Mm-hmm. But you're still going through all that pain and you're still like contracting and you're still pushing out, but the baby's born. Wow. That was such a insight into Mashiach. The baby's born.
Wait, why? I would think, why is that Mashiach once you're still if you're going through pain after the baby's born?
Because it makes so much sense that now Mashiach's here.
There
I've
you
done
go.
the job, but Mashiach's here, which means we're so much more powerfully equipped to finish this off than ever before.
So I'm further along in the birth than I realized.
Thus, I think, perhaps.
No, I think it's a good thing. All those Geuludic moments, I guess, are those moments like we gave birth already. And then when you have some more pain, so to speak, then you're not quite there, not quite finished.
Well, it's a great time to have Geuludic moments because it's Elul. And as we said, Elul, the king is in the field, and has a lot of compassion for us. I had personally 2 really amazing miracles last week in terms of getting my husband into Israel for
I heard that
my
one too.
grandson's birth.
That was amazing.
Amazing. And then the next day, I don't know which class you listened to, the next day, I had this similar miracle getting my son into Israel that I was working on all summer, and every door slammed in my face. And like Wednesday morning, I heard I got the permission, and 5 a.m. Thursday, I was driving him to the airport.
Wow.
And I went through so much that Wednesday, and like I did it, and my son's like, I'm like, we're going to Walmart and we're getting you a suitcase and go to the store and get Nash and get the shoes.
Did you have the
I've been
ticket?
for a week? And he's like, "Mom, you really think I'm gonna go?" I'm like, "Yes, you're going." And I was just like, "That's it, Hashem, I know you're gonna make this happen. I know you're gonna make this happen." And like the deadline I needed to inform, and it was 11 o'clock at night. I said, by 11, we'll know. Well, 11 came and went, but 11:35, it came through. And by 12:30, we had a ticket. And I said, good, we got 3.5 hours. We're making this happen. 5 a.m. driving to the airport. And it was tremendous pressure. It was very difficult. Obviously, I
really think part of all the preparation
in the morning. But
I think all the preparation too made a difference. You know, like if you're envisioning that you're going.
That was
and
it.
when you envision
I just had a lot of bitachon about it. I'm like, no, Hashem,
Right.
You're getting him there. I know it's going to happen. But my point is, was it very hard? Of course it was very hard. It was 3 intense days, 2 intense days on my husband and 1 intense day on my son. But it was so miraculous. So something could be very hard, but very miraculous. And maybe that's like what we're going through now. You know, it's Elul and the king's in the field. And we're working hard, and it's very hard, but there's still a lot of miracles flying all over. There's a lot of Hashem's compassion. And we should all feel like nurtured by that compassion, embraced by that compassion, drenched in that compassion as we go through a lot of hard stuff. The two are not mutually incompatible. We're working hard, and there's a lot of compassion, a lot of compassion. And it's good to like be able to like trust that compassion and say, you know what, Hashem, I'm working hard, but I know you're carrying me. I'm working hard, but you're really carrying me. And again, just going back to those basics, drinking more of that oil. Give yourself the chassidus that's going to burn away and char away the impurities. And work on that nullification and work on that trust. And remind yourself you don't serve idols. And assume that you're doing a good enough job that you can trick the Satan, fool the court case date, have it already in Elul, and we should be blessed with a year that is a complete revelation of redemption, personally and cosmically.
Amen.
So thank you so much for this. It's going to remind me to work more on my bittul. So that's awesome. I hope I won't be the only one that's going to take something practical. Try now, like to remind yourself of that you want to take something practical. You want
more than half of Elul left. More than half.
We haven't even come up to Hachaltzu yet. Hachaltzu is the
still
the
pay
highest,
Aleph.
the energy.
Still pay Aleph.
You've got time. And from there, of course, we know every day is a month. Hachaltzu Tishrei, Yotes is Cheshvan, Chaf is Kislev. We've got super powerful days ahead. So, like, ready, charge. Try to really charge through these days. I have a very sensitive friend who once said to me that she views Elul as like if someone gave her a credit card and said, it has no limits. I just need it back by whatever, 8 o'clock this evening. This was pre-Amazon. So, and she was like, oh my gosh, like I have so many hours, I have a limitless credit card, but I want to maximize how I'm going to utilize it because I got to give it back in whatever, 8 hours. And that's how she viewed this whole month. Like, it's limitless, the ability, just utilize it, maximize it, take advantage, or like Toby's saying, sometimes Hashem puts us in situations that we're taking advantage of it in ways we never imagined because he's creating the opportunities that we need to take advantage of. And then sometimes we do the work ourselves. Should be very meaningful. It should be very good. Thank you very much. And I guess if we're going to meet again before Shoshana, you'll let me know. I don't think we ever solidified on a date somehow.
Wait. Well, we'll confirm. I'm not sure about Chai Elul Wednesday. Are you available then?
I thought you had like a Farbrengen or I don't
Yeah,
know.
I know. Okay, we'll speak later.
You'll speak later. You'll let me know. I know we went back and forth and couldn't figure it out.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Please take something
Thank you.
practical. If you
This is
spend an
awesome.
hour and you don't walk away with something practical, it's almost like you weren't there. That's a big waste of time. So one thing that you could say in this way, I'm going to be different because we just talked godliness for an hour.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Thank you.
joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.